Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Michelle Fondin and I'm the author of my latest book, Chakra Healing for Vibrant Energy, Exploring Your 7 Energy Centers with Mindfulness, Yoga, and Ayurveda. So, welcome back to the Twin Flame channel. It really isn't a Twin Flame channel, it just seems that way lately, right? So today we're going to talk about, oh my God, union is so near. Oh my gosh, union is near. Union is near, or reunion, as we're saying these days. Reunion is near. And we're talking about how every setback is a setup for your reunion with your twin flame. Oh my gosh. So this is so true, you guys. Spring, now we're in summer, but this spring leading up into summer, whoa, like so many setbacks, crazy things have been happening. You might notice too that like not so crazy things have been happening to you and your twin. So as you get closer to union, there will be naysayers, skeptics, people, situations, and circumstances that will show up in your life to keep you and your twin separate. Here's why. God's ultimate plan is unconditional love. That is God's ultimate plan. Twin Flame's ultimate purpose is unconditional love. Therefore, we are carrying out God's plan of unconditional love in this collectivity. We're like the forefront or the forerunners in spreading unconditional love on this planet. Therefore, there are darker forces or opposing forces that are working against us and working to keep you and your twin separate and working hard to keep you guys separate, because the darker forces know that if you guys are together, you're this like superpower of unconditional love that's going to help raise the vibrational frequency of the planet. And the opposing forces, the darker forces, do not want that. They don't want you and your twin together. They do not want unconditional love to rule the planet. So it is crazy how things are kind of coming out of the woodwork in order to keep you guys separate. And this is happening for my twin and myself as well. And it's mostly external battles, meaning that there are people that will step in the way in order to keep you guys separate. There are situations and circumstances, like external situations and circumstances, that are stepping in the way in order to keep you guys apart and not in reunion. But there are also internal forces that are keeping you guys apart. So internal forces might be an addiction. It could be love of money or love of a job or love of people pleasing, for example. So like in the light of people pleasing, you don't want to, overturn the apple cart. And so and to not overturn the apple cart, you're going to like keep doing what you're doing, staying in separation from your twin when knowing that there is actually something that you can do to become closer in proximity to getting into union with your twin, meaning like maybe there's a family situation, for example, a cultural situation, a social situation. So let's just say like you're used to obeying, I guess, to your family culture or your family and societal culture, so that you're like playing the part, but you're not really in it, but you're playing the part to be the good person. And that's keeping you and your twin separate because according to your family culture, let's just give the example of an actual culture. So let's say like you're from Afghanistan, your counterpart, your twin, is from Korea. And so like they need to like obey the rules of the Korean culture. You need to obey the rules of the Afghan culture. And so you're not really like the outliers. You are the outliers, but you're not playing the part of the outliers and you're not transcending that. So that's a silly example. It's probably a real example for many of you, but it's just a silly example in order to like help you guys understand what I'm talking about when it comes to like those internal setbacks, those internal battles, those things that are keeping you guys apart, even in the midst of darkness. And this is like something that I really wanted to emphasize, because when I look back at my entire life, first of all, But when I look back at the journey that I've shared with my twin flame, when I look at the things that led up to our meeting, and then when I look at the things that have been designed to keep us apart and create this setback for our growth together and for our like spiritual, emotional love growth together, there have been people in our way. There have been circumstances in our way. There have been situations in our way keeping us apart and keeping us from speaking to one another, keeping us from being together, and keeping us from even like looking at each other. It's crazy, right? So there are all of these setbacks that are happening for us. And when I look at all those setbacks, though, what is really interesting is that God's plan reigns through it all. Meaning that God doesn't let anything go to waste. Okay, nothing is a surprise to God, you guys. Nothing at all is a surprise to God. So if you read the Bible basically says that like Satan needs to ask God's permission in order to tempt you, or Satan needs to ask God's permission in order to create obstacles for you. So nothing is beyond God, right? So God is all-knowing, omniscient, omnipotent, all-pervasive, everything. God is everything. So nothing is a surprise to God. But when you're looking at it from a human perspective, it can seem like, why do we keep having all these setbacks? Why is my life having these setbacks? Why does this keep happening? This is like ludicrous. This is ridiculous. And I will tell you guys, there have been some ridiculous things that have been happening in my life and have happened in my life in the past year. Yes, that led me to meeting my twin, but also like more specifically in the past few months. And it was really hard for me to understand it. I was like so frustrated. It was really hard for me to understand. I didn't know why certain things were happening. And then like during the last full moon, like it all came to light. And it all came to light that every single setback that has occurred has actually been a setup toward our union. And so let me just give you one example of my personal story that I can talk about. It's been close to a year right now. It doesn't have anything directly to do with my twin, so I can tell the story, but it does have to do with our meeting. Like the reason why we actually, one of the reasons why we actually met. When I moved to California, it was June 27th, 2018. I just celebrated my 1-year anniversary of moving to California. This is my lifelong dream. I had been wanting to move to California since I was 15. I've always wanted to live near the ocean. It was just like, it's always been something within me. And there were always, like I said, situations, circumstances, events, people keeping me from moving to California. So I finally mustered up the courage to actually make the move. Well, I have a 15-year-old son, and I got divorced in France. We had a divorce agreement. Part of the divorce agreement said that without the consent of my ex-husband, that I wouldn't move a certain number of miles or distance from the location where I was living without his consent. So we had gotten divorced in France, so the document was in French. The agreement was in France under French jurisdiction. Technicalities. Okay, fast forward to, me having full custody of my son and all of my children actually, and raising them for the past 10 years. And then I move here, and all of a sudden that, like, the upheaval started. As a result of that, which is really interesting, as a result of that, I wound up in this horrible court case that totally devastated me emotionally. I didn't have the money to spend on it financially because I was in total transition mode. So I was self-employed, had tons of clients where I used to live. I'm moving to this new area in Southern California. Now I don't have any clients. It was just, I didn't have a job, and on and on and on and on. And so I find myself in the midst of losing my child, losing custody, and not having any money, not having resources, not having a job. In the beginning, not even having an apartment to live or a place to live in, and moving from a house to getting an apartment. So all of these crazy things started happening, and it was like my life was crumbling down. It was like the lowest of lowest points that I had been at in a really long time. And I was so devastated and so depressed, and I was in such a dark place that I didn't even know if I wanted to live. I was in such a dark place. And So it was really interesting because as a result of that, for example, the divorce document from France got miraculously translated into English, which it had never been in all those years, in 10 years, never been translated. So my divorce was actually never really recognized in the United States. Well, I had never gotten remarried, so I really didn't need it to, but it's useful, right? So now I have like an official divorce document in the United States, so I'm free to get married in the US if I want to. So do you understand how like all this is coming around? But it came around as a tragedy, as something bad happening in my life. But in the end, getting that document and having it like official in the United States without having me have to spend a dime on it, whoa, that's pretty cool. Then on top of it, because of the court case and what was going on, I had to have a compelling reason to stay in the state of California. So my compelling reason had to be like having a job. So I had never, ever, never considered working for a corporation. So you better believe in the midst of this court case, like right before this, I saw it coming. It's not like during the court case, it's like I saw it coming and I'm like, oh shoot, I need to get a job. So I got my job, which provided income, which provided resources, which provided like a social network and a social group. So you're starting to see where this is coming around, is that like all of these little things were set up. They were setbacks, but they were set up so that ultimately I could meet my twin. So that is what happened in like the most devastating part of my life, the most heart-wrenching part of my life, the part that I thought there's no way that I can lose my son. There's no way that he can't live with me. It was just like, I knew it was divinely orchestrated. I knew my move was divinely orchestrated. I just didn't understand why all these crazy bad things were happening, because I knew God had his hand in it. But I just didn't know the full story. So since I didn't know the full story, I didn't know what needed to happen in order to get to where I am today. Make sense? So yeah, totally devastating story. And yes, my son ultimately has to live with his father on the other side of the country. You know, I see him every month anyway, but that's like, that needed to happen. It needed to happen. That piece of it I don't quite understand, but that needed to happen. And so many things came about so that I met my twin. Now, had it not happened in divine timing and perfect timing and all those setbacks and like the devastation of everything that happened leading up to me being here and like creating a stable life for myself here, I would have never met my twin. So that's the thing, is like, had those destructive forces not worked against me consistently, it would not have been that I was forced to do certain things in order to get to the place where I needed to get to in order to meet him. And so like, I know that for certain. Like honestly, had I not had to go through all of that, I would have not bumped into him. I would have not met him. So it's like totally crazy how life happens like that. But it's like every single setback is a set up that's going to bring you toward reunion with your twin. So now let's fast forward to the springtime. Crazy time, right? So I love, her name is Victoria. She has a channel on YouTube. She does readings. She's a medium. I think it's Star Moon Angel 1111. I will put it below, but I love her channel. She's really great. She talks a lot about the what's been happening in astrology and planetary movements with all the eclipses that have been happening and the full moons, like the strong full moons that have been happening, and then all these planets in retrograde. So since my twin and I are really, really aligned in the 5D, and there have been a lot of weird, strange, like really strange things that have been happening since about January, which astrologically speaking is kind of where this has been going for most twin flames. And since the spring, there's been some really, really hard setbacks. Now, what's interesting is that these setbacks, these destructive forces in my life and in my twin's life, and just in general, have made it that every time there has been like this major setback, it has forced my twin and I to talk. Now that is insane, right? Because usually you would want to talk under happy circumstances. You would want to bring yourselves together into union, into the same space to talk under great circumstances. Like, hey, how's your day going? What have you been doing? What projects have you been working on? What are your passions? What, we look for those occasions to like really talk about the joys of life. Now, instead, I'm finding myself in a space with my twin where we are talking about really negative things. But as a result of these negative things that have happened, some of the deepest and best conversations have come about, where I have been really able to see the depth of the person that is my twin, and my twin has been able to see the depth of the person that I am. Now, in the normal day-to-day conversations, a lot of times this doesn't come up, right? So when you're talking about your hobbies, your passions, your projects, whatever you're doing with your life, a lot of times the depth of those conversations don't necessarily come up. It's just very lighthearted, it's fun, it's, whatever. It's really in those dark times, in those difficult times, it's when things that are not going well, that you can really see the flavor of somebody's character, that you can really see where somebody is, how they've grown spiritually, how they are mentally, how stable they are mentally. But it's really during those dark times that you're able to see that. And I kid you not, like just the weirdest stuff has happened. And I have been able to see a side to my twin flame that I normally would not have been able to see as a result of all that. Now, I am hoping that in the near future that we're able to see the more lighthearted side of who we are for both of us. But it's like God does not let anything go to waste. He doesn't let anything go to waste. He uses everything in order to propel you towards your greater destiny. And that is the greatest message and the greatest gift that you can take moving forward in all of this, and all of this turmoil that you're experiencing, and all of these doubts that you're experiencing, and all of the setbacks you're experiencing, is just take those as a gift. That's God handing you a gift. Now, it may not look like that. It might look really ugly, and you're like, God, why are you giving me this gift? Like, it looks so terrible. It looks so ugly. Like, I don't want this. But you need to find the hidden treasure within that gift, and God is not going to let anything go to waste. He's going to use absolutely everything to help you and your twin get into reunion. Now, if you look at it like that, like if you really truly look at it like that, and look at this setback, it sucks, it's horrible, it's terrible, but I can see the gift in it. And really, lately, when I have looked at these setbacks, and when I have spoken with my twin during the times and periods of these setbacks, I've been able to see the gifts in that. I've been able to extract the gifts from that and just say, wow, if we had not had this encounter or this experience, if I had not been able to talk with him through this, he would have never seen this side of me. He would have never seen this side of me, and I would have never seen this side of him. Oh, sure, throughout life, you do see all sides of people, but it's like I said, twin flames are on a fast track. They are on a lightning speed fast track to transcendence, to awakening. And because they're on this high-speed train to awakening, you don't really have time to live through the ups and downs of life over the course of years. We're talking about this is happening in the here and now. This is happening in the course of months. This is in days. This is not happening in the course of years. So you're going to have to see all of these sides to your counterpart, to your twin flame, in order to have this spiritual growth to bring you guys into perfect union, because then you're an energetic match with each other. So that is what's actually happening. It's not like, oh my God, my life is just completely miserable because I'm with this person or not with this person or whatever with this person. But like I said, there are forces that are so much greater that are happening here. And it's in the good and in the bad. And so I put a shield of protection around me. I put a shield of protection around my twin, asking angels, guardian angels, archangels to guard us and guide us and help us. Because this battle is not easy, and it's not over. It's almost over, meaning that the closer you are to reunion, yeah, the fire is turned up, and the people that are trying to keep you separate are going to start showing up and keep showing up, but your resolve is going to get stronger. So your spiritual strength is going to get stronger, and you're going to start to see things from a totally different perspective. So instead of seeing things like I'm walking through the fire now, which I have walked through fire. Anyone ever been to Unleash the Power Within, Tony Robbins? Walking over, 5,000 degree hot coals? I did it. I did it. I didn't really want to do it, but I did it. But literally walking through the fire, like walking through the fire in order to get to your twin, and your twin is walking through the fire in order to get to you, and the heat is going to be turned up. The heat is going to be turned up because you are so strong energetically as a pair as you come into this reunion with unconditional love that, believe me, there are people, there are forces that don't want that. But I have resolve. I know you guys have resolve if you're watching this, that you're able to transcend and overcome it. Now, let's talk about your internal demons. Let's talk about like what's going on internally with you. In my personal life, there are certain things that I know that I need to do that would make this transition into reunion easier. There are choices that I need to make in order to make this reunion easier. And those choices are not easy choices to make. They're not easy. And then sometimes you're weighed with the choice, like, am I making this choice just to be with my twin, or am I making this choice because it's the right choice for me? Now, in the end, I know that the choices that I need to make are the right choices for me. But in addition to those choices being right for me, they're also going to help facilitate reunion with my twin. Now, I've talked to many of you over the past several weeks in private readings and in the Q&A, which thank you so much if you're watching the live feed Q&A. So I've talked to a lot of you, and I know that there are choices that a lot of you too need to make, probably choices that are way more difficult than the choices that I need to make. But you'll make those choices with a full and open heart, and just knowing that what is your end result? Like, you have to understand what is your end result. So like, you're going to make choices that feel good now, but you really need to be thinking about what choices can I make that are going to get me to my end result. It might not feel good now, but if it gets you towards your end result, then that's probably the better choice. And so when I think about that, when I think about making the choices that I need to make in order to get us closer to reunion, just on my part. Now, he has to do his part, right? If he doesn't do his part, it's not going to work. But in order to get us closer to reunion, if I make my choices in order to help facilitate that, then I know I'm doing my part toward the end result. Now, the end result is the everything, right? It's not just being in reunion with your twin. It's about your life purpose. It's about moving forward with that life purpose, right? So, it's really funny because when you think about like choices that are so benign, right? So incredibly benign, but that may have a greater impact, it just really totally makes you wonder, right? So my son and I have been looking for this kitten to adopt a kitten. Now, crazy, right? Because you would think it would be easy. So we have been working on this for the past week. It is not an easy thing for us, and I'm just baffled sitting here trying to figure out why it's so darn hard. I don't know if it's like my angels and guides, and I've asked for heavenly guidance, but I've asked my angels and guides, and I'm like, hello, angels and guides, can you please help us find a kitten that's going to be good for the home? And we cannot. So everyone we're contacting, they either want you to adopt 2 kittens, or they're like, oh no, this kitten just got adopted. Or, we visit an animal shelter, we find that all the kittens are gone. We visit an animal shelter, we find like, oh no, this kitten has a promise to adopt on it, so now you can't adopt it. And on and on and on and on and on. We've been at this for a week. Or like the best one that I had today is I work Saturdays and Sundays. The only time you can see our kittens is 11 to 3 on Saturdays and Sundays. I said, well, what if you can't be there 10 to 3 on Saturdays and Sundays? Well, sorry, you can't see the kittens then. So it's totally insane. It's a benign decision, right? it's this decision that's like, it should be easy to adopt a kitten, but for some reason it's really hard to adopt this kitten. So I don't know what the universe is trying to tell me. Maybe my twin doesn't want a kitten. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's just these decisions that you have to make day to day that could have a greater impact on your life. And then the decisions that like are really hard to make, they may or may not have a greater impact on your life. So do you understand like the difference of like, you need to forge forward and move forward with the decisions that are right for you. If there's something that you can do to facilitate reunion and giving up something that might be precious to you. And it could just be like I've talked to many twins in our comments below on YouTube videos and personally about long distance relationships, about distance. Many, this is a huge one, you guys. The long distance is a huge one. One twin lives in one city, the other lives in another city across the country. One lives in one country, the other lives in another country. Like, this is just a reoccurring theme where the twins, like, if they're gonna come in a reunion, somebody's gonna have to move or change geographical locations, right? So if you're the twin that can more readily give up their geographical location in order to be closer in proximity to your twin, then why wouldn't you make that sacrifice, right? So that's what I'm talking about, like the internal forces that are working against you to keep you and your twin apart. So those internal demons, like the ego part of you that is like, I'm not gonna give up this. Why should I give up this? That person should give up this, right? And for me personally, like, it's really funny because it does play with you too. And I'll wrap it up with this. Please always think of your end result. Okay. So last night when I got home, I actually made a list of my end results. So what would I love my life to look like in the next 6 months? Like, what would I love my life to look at? I mean, I really got it shorter term. Like, I would have loved for all this to happen in the next 2 months or 3 months. But what would I love my life to look like? What are my end results? What job would I like to have? What vocation? What hobbies? What volunteer experience? What type of relationship do I want to be in with my twin? Where do I want to live with my twin? Like, all of this stuff, like, what would be your end results? Like, what would be the end goal, the end result? And I will tell you, I had to write it down. I had to. Because I had a day that brought me a whole lot of other choices. And the other choices were good. It's not like the other choices were bad. This wasn't even bad stuff. This was really good stuff. So I had all these other choices that came up. And then I was like, whoa, well, maybe I don't have to make as many changes as I thought I needed to make. And because I have this beautiful basket of lovely stuff that's coming to me now. But then when I really took a look at that lovely basket of stuff, in the end, it didn't correspond to my end goals. So when I was looking at the big, lovely basket of stuff that was being presented to me on this beautiful platter called, "You're great, let's offer you this stuff," whatever this beautiful basket of stuff is. This is great, it's for you. And then it was so tempting. It was so tempting because it was easier. It was much easier than the choices that I needed to make. And then that's why I had to sit down at the end of the day and I had to go, what are my end goals? What is my end result here? What do I really, 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 really want to happen? And I had to get clear with myself. I had to make the decision with myself. And I had to tell myself, this is what I really want. These are the end goals that I want. These are the end results that I really want. So in order to get to those end results, there are some sacrifices that I need to make, like a lot of sacrifice. And the sacrifices, honestly, again, if you look at it on the surface, the sacrifices may look like, and I like to say this, it's really funny because, we have in society these preconceived notions of how people act and how they should act. And so on the surface, it could look like, oh, she's doing this for a boy. and I'm sure I'll get some of that. Like, I'm sure I will get some of that. I'm sure that there are members of my family or friends or whatever that might say, like, you're going to make these changes and make these decisions and make life-altering choices for a person. And in fact, that is happening as well as for my own support in my own hopes and dreams. And in my own hopes and dreams are just as important. And so think about it, you guys. Like, think about how certain setbacks are really a setup to get you towards your greater destiny. And what is continuing to happen in the collective too, and I will just say this up front, because me being faced with making choices is also me facing my greatest fears. And like, I didn't think I had any more fears left in me. Like, honestly, everything's been surfaced in the past year. But I really didn't think, I was like, what else could there be? Honestly, so many of my fears have been surfaced in the past year. But there was one fear that was left. And it was kind of a big one. And there was really one fear that was left. And I'm like, darn it, God, like, seriously? You're going to make me face that one now? Like, seriously? And this morning I got confirmation of, yeah, you need to face that one. Like, you need to face that one too. And I was like, geez, like, when will this stop, right? And it has nothing to do with having a cat. It's something much bigger, but I'm going to face it. I'm going to have to face it. So walk through the fire towards your twin. Like, walk through the fire, and your twin is going to walk through the fire towards you. And if you're not in conversation with your twin, just know that your twin flame, divine masculine or divine feminine, is having these tower moments too. Like, they are having setbacks too. And like, people are appearing out of nowhere, you guys. They're appearing out of nowhere to try to keep you guys apart. Like, nowhere. It's insanity. People are making crap up just to keep you guys apart. People are like, the fire is turning up. Like, it's crazy. But just know that, like, every single thing designed to keep you apart is going to bring you closer together. It just is. And that should be your perspective. Your perspective needs to be, this looks really crappy on the outside, but I know it's designed to bring us together. Like, and then once the forces of you two together, you guys are going to be so strong that, like, you're going to face adversities, but you're going to do it together rather than apart. And it's going to be so much more helpful. But, like, you can even ask your twins' higher self and your twins' guardian angels. Like, I talk to my twins' guardian angels daily, right? We're one soul, right? Each body has its individual guardian angels, but we're one soul. So my guardian angels look out for him, and his guardian angels look out for me. That has to happen because we're one soul. So since we're one soul, like, they're constantly in conversation with each other. So I always talk to my twin flames guardian angels. I'm like, hey, could you, like, look out for me and for him? Like, could you make sure, like, we're protected? Could you make sure that this is not going to happen? Could you help me with this over here, so that I'm in alignment with my twin and the decisions that I'm making? Because it's super important to have that alignment, to have that energetic alignment with your twin, right? Because that brings you guys closer to reunion. So you have heavenly forces that are for you. Even if there are forces that are against you, just know that. And God knows about everything. Nothing is a surprise to God. Update on my twin flame book, you guys. I'm about halfway through. Yay. I will be doing another Q&A next week, probably Tuesday, pending that my schedule doesn't change. So another Q&A, twin flame Q&A. Book is halfway done. I'll be doing pre-orders for the book probably second week in August. What I'm going to try to do is get a big chunk of pre-orders so I can send you guys signed copies of the Twin Flame book. When that book comes out, I'll just ship them like the same week to everyone who's prepaid copies of signed books. The price is going to be slightly higher for the prepaid copies because you guys are paying for my time. Sorry, that's just the way it is. You guys don't know. I've shipped out books before. You don't know how long it takes to, like, open up each book, dedicate the book, sign the book, put them in the package, get to the post office, right? That takes time. So I'm not Amazon, but you get a signed copy and you're supporting an independent author, which is amazing, right? You want to support independent artists. So thank you so much, you guys. Thank you for joining me. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel and click on the bell for notifications. Share this video with other twin flames and buy a book. Support me on Patreon, www.patreon.com/Michelle S. Fondin, and I will see you in the next video.